Hello, this is Tony Heller from RealClimateScience.com, setting the record straight about science. The World Economic Forum believes that there used to be life on Venus. They say that Venus used to be like Earth, but climate change ruined it. Here are the claims from their article. The planet Venus once likely had surface temperatures similar to present-day Earth. Recent modeling has revealed. It probably also had oceans, rain, perhaps snow, maybe continents, and plate tectonics. But Venus's climate was permanently altered when catastrophic volcanic eruptions released vast quantities of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Could Venus's fate hold stark lessons for us here on Earth? Note that in the first sentence they use the words likely and they also use the word modeling. So this isn't actual science, it's just arm waving from a computer model. A computer model is simply a reflection of the beliefs of the person who wrote it. In the second sentence, they use the word probably, and then they claim that Venus used to have oceans, rain, snow, continents, and plate tectonics, but there's no science to back that up. Venus rotates very slowly. One day on Venus is 243 Earth days long. Venus is also closer to the Sun, so during their very long afternoons it would get extremely hot there. There's no way that oceans could have ever formed on Venus because during their incredibly long, hot afternoons, all of the water would have evaporated away. Venus is very hot now because they have an extremely thick atmosphere. The atmospheric pressure on Venus is 90 times higher than Earth. Venus is hot for the same reason why it's much hotter at the bottom of the Grand Canyon than it is at the top. The atmospheric pressure at the bottom of the Grand Canyon is much higher than it is at the top, thus the temperature at the bottom is also much higher. If the atmosphere of Earth was as thick as the one on Venus, it would be extremely hot here too. As we descend through Earth's atmosphere, the temperature increases about 5 degrees Fahrenheit per 1,000 feet elevation. So if the atmosphere of the Earth was much thicker, like the atmosphere of Venus, temperatures at the surface of the Earth would also be extremely hot. And the reason why Venus has such a thick atmosphere is precisely because they don't have any oceans. The oceans on Earth absorbed huge amounts of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and then precipitated them out as limestones. Without the oceans on Earth, we would have a very similar atmosphere to Venus and would be extremely hot here too. Venus has two fundamental differences from Earth. One is that they're closer to the Sun, and the other is that they rotate very slowly, so afternoons would get extremely hot. These modelers appear to have ignored these two critical pieces of information. Now let's look at their third claim. Venus's climate was permanently altered when catastrophic volcanic eruptions released vast quantities of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. But there's no evidence to support that idea. Volcanoes tend to be fairly consistent over time. The modelers simply made this idea up because their model requires a sudden large increase in the amount of carbon dioxide. Their bogus theory depends on some sort of magical event which probably can't actually occur in the real universe. Sometimes climate alarmists want you to believe that volcanoes can suddenly put huge amounts of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and other times they want you to believe the exact opposite. Climate alarmists insist that on Earth volcanoes can't be responsible for the increase in carbon dioxide. Yet on other planets, alarmists blame the increase in carbon dioxide on volcanoes. Besides their fake computer models and their unsupportable assumptions, climate alarmists also love doublethink. Now let's look some more at the World Economic Forum article. Venus is covered with very thick clouds and no American spacecraft has ever landed there, so high-quality imagery from the surface is problematic. But the modelers took this crude imagery and convinced themselves they were seeing structures similar to those on Earth. They convinced themselves that they were seeing river valleys in these images. Confirmation bias is a very serious problem in science. People convince themselves that they're seeing things which they want to see. I'm going to get back to that in a minute, but first let's take a look at who the World Economic Forum is. They're a group of very rich and powerful people who fly into Switzerland once in a while on their private jets. And they're quite open about the fact that they want all of the little people locked up in their homes. They say emissions fell during lockdown, let's keep it that way, and they have a picture of a nearly empty freeway. They want to fly all over the world in their private jets, and they want you to stay home. Let's look now at their claims about emissions falling during lockdown. According to the World Meteorological Organization, COVID-19 has had no measurable impact on CO2 concentrations in the atmosphere. 90% of the world was locked down at some time during the year. What this shows us is that governments do not control the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. The proposed lockdowns really have nothing to do with climate, they're just about keeping you locked up. Now let's look at another claim from the World Economic Forum from a few years ago. They said in 2016, by the 2030s we'll be ready to move humans towards Mars. The World Economic Forum believes that 0.04% CO2 on Earth is making the planet uninhabitable, but they believe we will be able to live on Mars where they have 96% CO2. Carbon dioxide levels on Mars are much, much higher than they are on Earth, so for climate alarmists to be talking about moving to Mars makes absolutely no sense. The World Economic Forum believes that there used to be life on Venus, and 100 years ago the scientific consensus was that there was life on Mars. 100 years ago, scientists looked at crude images of Mars and convinced themselves that they were seeing evidence of life. May 4th, 1926, Life on Mars. The photographs show that the dark areas in Mars can only be explained by vegetation. New York Times, August 27, 1911. Martians built 2 immense canals in 2 years. Vast engineering works accomplished in an incredibly short time by our planetary neighbors. January 15, 1915. How the Martians made their canals. Astronomers now quite generally accept the theory that the canals are the product of intelligent action, artificial aids to agriculture, irrigation projects on a scale impossible on the Earth's surface. New York Times, November 10, 1907. Martians probably superior to us. I don't doubt that Martians are superior to New York Times writers and probably always have been. New York Times, June 25, 1950. Science in Review. Most astronomers now concede that the dark color that comes and goes seasonally on Mars is evidence of some low form of vegetation. And even after we sent spaceships there, astronomers were still deluding themselves about Mars. December 30th, 1965. Mars canals oases sighted. Berkeley, California. A noted astronomer said yesterday that he has found evidence of canals and oases in 7 of the 22 pictures taken of Mars by the Mariner 4 spacecraft earlier this year. And Dr. Tombaugh was a very famous astronomer. He's the guy who discovered Pluto. In 1965, astronomers made very detailed maps of the imaginary canal network on Mars. The Martian canal network is suggestive of a complex, large-scale network due to intelligent design. For what purpose, we can only guess. And they also did this back in 1911. They made very detailed maps of things which were completely imaginary. And if we go back to the World Economic Forum article on Mars, we'll see once again that they're expecting to find evidence of alien life. And NASA is still sticking to their claims about life on Mars, even though no legitimate evidence has ever been found. This article from the New York Post pretty much sums up the situation. Martians could have been wiped out by global warming. Almost everything now gets blamed on either global warming or on a virus. The reality is that globalists want to shut down our civilization, and they're using all kinds of nonsense about global warming as their primary tool. Globalists don't want your car causing traffic jams on the highway, and they certainly don't want you in front of them at the security line at the airport. And they've resolved those problems by simply locking you up in your home. Toto thinks there's no limit to how big a lie these people are willing to tell in order to implement their agenda. You can visit Toto and Kyrie on the web at realclimatescience.com.